Good evening, everybody. My name is Christopher Thomas. I am a sophomore, second semester sophomore here at Bethune-Cookman University, majoring in religion and philosophy with a concentration in Christian ministry with a minor in criminal justice. Tonight, I'll be sharing with you the importance of voting. Why voting is important. Franklin D. Roosevelt said these words: "Nobody will ever deprive the American people of the right to vote except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting." One of the things that make America really amazing is the democratic process of voting, not just in the presidential election, but in the primary election. Not just in those two, but in simple things as school elections, community elections, and club elections, and things of that nature. But to understand voting, let's take a deeper look into the history of voting, who voting impacts, and the importance of voting. The history of voting. Voting started in 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was signed, sealed, and delivered. Um, at that time, George Washington was appointed as the President of the United States at that time. In 1787, no federal voting standard was a law that was passed in that year, meaning that the federal government could not go into different states and claim this is how you do it. No, that's not the case. The states themselves, such as Florida or New York or California or Wyoming or Ohio, those natures, are able to declare and to say these are the criteria for voting. These are the people that can vote. Voting was only given during back in the day, during the time, was only given to white men who had the ability and capability of owning land. In 1790, a neutralized law was passed, meaning that only free white immigrant can vote. At that time, to me, I think that's kind of a contradicting law and statement, because at this very time that I'm discussing, white people were free. They were not treated badly as blacks. They were not treated badly as Mexican or people of other ethnicities and other backgrounds. Who voting really impacted? I really want to discuss this because this is a real reason why voting is important. Um, Voting impacted women. 1848, we have the Women's Rights March, where women band together, regardless of what their race is, regardless of what their ethnicity was. They band together and they rose up against men and said, we are humans too. We are your wives, we are your daughters, we are your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, and we have the right to live. We have the right to breathe. We have the right to do different things just as you all do, and especially the right to vote, because the decisions that you all make as men, they do affect us as women. Not only did voting impact women and affect women, it also impacted and affected African Americans as well. If you think about what all the African Americans have been through the struggle of slavery and segregation, voting was actually really their way out of segregation and the mindset of slavery. Because if you were able to vote, then you were somebody. If you were able to vote, then you were able to understand that this is what's going on in my community, and this is what needs to be changed. Not only that, but voting in the presidential election, you wouldn't just vote for somebody because, oh, you like them, or, oh yeah, they're going to make a difference for the black community. You voted for them because they made it a change, and not just in the black community or in the white community, but for everybody. The importance of voting. Really, this is one that's really simple, but it's very important as well, because our ancestors shed their blood for it. I think that's one of the major things that we can really say, that our ancestors, they died through the process of slavery, trying to get freedom. They died in the process of trying to make a better America for us, especially as black kids and as African American kids in college. Understanding that voting is really important from the foundation of voting. You see that blacks played an important role in it, because blacks said, you know what, it's time for a difference. We do have some historical points. Prime example, in 1848, activists ending slavery and women's rights joined together. Women's Right Convention held in Falls, New York. Frederick Douglass, a newspaper editor and a former slave, attends the event and gives a speech supporting universal voting rights. His speech helps convince the convention to adopt a resolution calling the voting rights for women. Why should women be able to vote? Women should be able to vote because you know what? They bear our children. They clean up our children. They take care of us as men. They take care of the household. They do things that we have the capability to do, but we don't do. Granting citizenship in 1848. Granting citizenship, that was another thing that was wrong with our American system. We grant citizenship to only white people, but we never granted citizenship to those who were actually born here in the United States. And that right was not given to anybody that was born in the United States. And then in 1868, former slaves granted citizenship. That's the 14th Amendment, something that's very important to us as blacks. And then the 15th Amendment was passed. 1872, women tried to vote. Susan B. Anthony is arrested because she's trying to vote in the presidential election. Then you have Sojourner Truth, who does the same exact thing, but is demanding for a ballot, but she is denied and turned away. Then you have 1912 through 1913, women lead voting right marches through New York and Washington, D.C. These are things that are very important to us in the course of history because that's what shaped voting. Us getting out, being proactive and not reactive. That's one thing that I'm very passionate about throughout the course of history, seeing men and women seeing a wrong and becoming the change. Just as Franklin D. Roosevelt was saying, that the only people that can turn voting away from people is the American people when you don't go out and vote. A lot of times I hear my own peers say, I'm not voting because to me it's pointless. The one party is going to win either any other way. But no, voting has so much more emphasis on that. Prime example, coming into modern day, coming in today, what we have in the black community. I'm very passionate about our very own community because of the fact that voting is actually what shapes us. Voting is what actually connects us as a people and as a humane race. Voting allows us to recognize, okay, my brother has a need. But in order for him to get a need, there's something that has to change in our government, and it has to change in the process that all these different laws that are put in place to help to keep me from helping my brother. And then in another form that come again in our community, bad school systems, bad libraries, bad grocery stores, not having enough Medicare or Medicaid so that the elderly can live, that people in hospitals that really need medication can get medication. Security in our neighborhood, voting for the right police chief, voting for the right school board, voting for the right mayor of a city or a town, the one that's not just going to be about for fame and fortune, but that's going to be about for the entire benefactor of the community, and then going up the ladder, going into Supreme Court, going into the court systems and finding which judge is really standing for justice, voting on those particular things, even if it's something small and silly as simple as a traffic light or a stop sign. You'll be amazed how something silly and simple can make a big impact, such as a traffic light or a stop sign. Or then you even have people that vote on different things as what kind of grocery store is going to be in your community. These are the things that you have to be and stay in contact and be prepped and prepared for. So when somebody can come and ask you what's going on in your neighborhood, you can really say, this is what's going on in my neighborhood, and this is what we as the people and voted for. A matter of fact, the we as the people is something that is written in our Constitution. We the people, meaning not we the people, not we the white people or we the black people, we the people as a community as a whole. This is what we are standing for. This is what we are voting for. This is what we stand for. Looking back into history, as Dr. King is doing the March on Washington and marching from Alabama to Montgomery and all those different places, this is what he was dying for. This is what he was fighting for. This is what he predicted, especially in his I Have a Dream speech. He said, I have a dream that one day my 4 black children and my 4 white neighbors, their children, they can come together in unity. This is what voting brings about. It brings about change. Not only does it bring about change, but it brings about it makes a difference in time. So then at a later date, we can say, this is what we can fight for. We can tell our children, and they can tell their children's children, this is the importance of voting. Thank you.